Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for episode 140 of the MeepleCore Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Jennette, the Metal Meeple, and in this episode, I talk about For Crown and Kingdom, Enigma, I give my excitement over the Matrix 4 trailer, and much more. Normally, this would be part of the episode where I do my random question, but my Alexa device is not connecting to the internet for some reason, and I have zero idea why. It's very upsetting. I tried for about 10 minutes before recording to get it to say something, and it just won't connect to my Wi-Fi. I don't know. I have a newer one that I might configure, but I didn't have time to configure it before doing this. So I'm just going to look online and type in a random... Google asked me a random question. Here we go. I don't know. 65 questions to ask anybody. I don't think this is going to work. While I'm doing this, though, I will mention that there will not be a podcast next week. I am actually going out of town to Florida for my 10-year wedding anniversary. We're taking the kids back to the same place that we got married. I know Florida is a hotbed of COVID activity right now, but it's okay. We're going to be basically in a hotel, like resort / thing, and just going to the little beach. We're going to try to stay away from large crowds and things like that. But 10 years, it's planned. We're vaccinated. That's how it's going to be. We're just going to do that. Let's see. Random question. I don't know if anybody... What are some random questions? All right, here we go. We're just going to do this one. If you had 3 wishes, what would you wish for? Okay. Without playing Dungeons and Dragons DM mode where, you ask for something and they try to, I want $1 million and congratulations, it spawns on top of you and kills you. None of that crap. And we're not going to do, I know it'd be awesome to wish for like world peace and all that stuff, but we're just going to go to the traditional, what kind of selfish things can you wish for that would be awesome? I'm going to go with that. The first thing I would say is I would wish that I could really be doing a different career right now. Not that I hate my career as it is, but man, it would be so awesome to be on tour as a band playing songs that I've wrote. I have so many songs that I've wrote that I'm in process of recording and stuff, but it's just so much different to, have all these songs and not play them. And, either way, there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming in the future for that. Hopefully I'll finally get off my butt and do my MeepleCore or, Metal Meeple songs about board games that I was going to do. I have 2 of those actually fully written and, not recorded, but fully written, all the instruments, everything. And it's just driving me nuts that I haven't put the time into sitting down and recording these in a studio environment. But that will change very soon, so I'm very excited about that. Next 2 wishes, let's say it would be really cool to live forever. I've always talked about that. I know a lot of people don't want to live forever. They don't want that fountain of youth. I am absolutely okay with living forever. Now, here's the thing. I don't want to be I want to be immortal as far as age and stuff, and hopefully against diseases and everything. But I don't want like the world to explode. I'm just floating out in space for billions of years. You know what I'm saying? I guess you can't have it all, but it'd be fun to not die of old age or diseases and things like that, or get, shot in the head randomly. That would be cool. And the third wish I would go with, let's see, I guess just, randomly thinking about it, it would be awesome to either have a fully published board game, which I'm working on, as is everyone, or a fully published video game, which would be even more impressive, I think, if you could have the team and be the lead designer on a video game. That would be, oh my gosh, that would be so cool. I don't even know what I would do with the video game. Probably some kind of RPG, like action RPG type of thing. I know with a board game, I've got a really cool one planned. I've actually got a couple of them that I've been working on for many years, but one of them is pretty epic in scale. We'll see what goes on with that. Either way, that's my 3 wishes there. And with that being said, I haven't really been up to much since the last episode. just been, some of the games that we played on this, that I'm going to talk about on this episode. And other than that, I mean, I've been getting back to Fantasian on the iPhone. It's a really cool RPG. I actually talked about last episode that I bought Octopath Traveler for the Nintendo Switch, and I want to get to that, but I do want to finish Fantasian on my phone first before I start another game. And on top of that, I'm still playing Final Fantasy XIV. I just hit level 60, I believe. It's a little bit slower because the game forces you to go through the main story quests, which is fine, except that you typically will out-level the story quests and won't get much XP for them. If you're doing like the daily leveling queue to do like a random dungeon, you get a ton of XP and you just out-level the pace of the main story quest. But it is nice that you can play the game without focusing on a lot of side quests and grinding and such. You can really play it like a Final Fantasy game, just go through the main story quest and experience the story as it's being told. It's an okay story so far. I did finish I said so far, but I have finished A Realm Reborn, and it was pretty cool. It wasn't super elaborate like a lot of Final Fantasy games, but I am told that the expansions are even better. So very excited about that. We'll see where those go. I did get a chance to check out the Matrix 4 trailer, which is absolutely awesome. It seems like it's called Resurrections, I believe. And it seems like they're taking the Matrix. And if you're familiar with the Matrix series, at one point the architect said that the system had rebooted like 6 or 7 times or so, and this could be a reboot of the Matrix. Because if you watch the trailer, it seems like it's definitely a reboot style, where they're doing a lot of the same things they did in the very first movie, with Neo kind of learning things, and he learns how powerful he is. They even have the Kung Fu scene. I don't know why Lawrence Fishburne isn't in it. It's a different actor. Which is kind of sad, but maybe there's a very good reason for that. Agent Smith's not in it either, although Agent Smith's character might be. There is a agent in the trailer, so who knows, what the actual agent's name is or anything. But obviously Trinity's in there, and they meet for the first time. So and then he ends up taking the blue pill, red pill. I'm not spoiling anything. This is all just a 3-minute trailer, so you can watch it and get all this information from that. It's not like I know anything else past there. But I'm very excited. I think The Matrix is one of my favorite series. I know a lot of people give it grief for the second and third episode of it, but I am super excited. I cannot even tell you. Very cool. Something else I'm very excited about is one of my favorite bands. My favorite band is Falling in Reverse. My second favorite band has to be Ice Nine Kills. And they've released like 3 videos off their new CD that's coming out, called the Silver Scream 2 Horrorwood. And the newest song is based on the Resident Evil movies. Super cool. If you like horror themed things and like metal, definitely check out Ice Nine Kills. Their last couple of music videos. Very, very cool. Before we get into the 2 games that I'm going to talk about on this episode, I want to remind you, definitely check out Humble Bundle by going to MeepleCore.com and clicking our Humble Bundle link to help us out. But as I said, always, it is extremely more important if you guys can review our podcast by going to any of the podcast platforms you use and leaving a review, and even if you just click a stars and don't leave any text, it really does help us. So if you want to see us get out there. After my vacation, I do plan on having some more guests and things. I've got a lot of things planned for that, even though we haven't really had Matt. Oh, Matt will be back on kind of every couple episodes, but George is still doing some school stuff. We're trying to line that out to where we can record, because typically we're recording at like 11 p.m. and it's rough when you got to drive a couple hours to school every morning. So he'll be back on eventually, but we'll see what happens. Either way, I'm going to try to line up a bunch of guests until then. So definitely spread the word by giving us some ratings, or even if you just link it in some of the Board Game Guild, groups on Facebook and things like, what podcast do you listen to? Even just, throwing this out there, that helps also. So really appreciate the ones of you that have done that. It is very, very cool, and I'm very excited. So 2 games I'm going to talk about is for Crown and Kingdom and Enigma. So the first game I'm talking about is called For Crown and Kingdom. Use your characters to to advance. That's typed out wrong. Use your character's advantage to claim all spaces with your banner. It was published in 2016 by Rio Grande Games. Designer is Dave Mansell and artist is Kelly McClellan. This game is basically a rondelle style game. And if you're not familiar with what rondelles are, it's essentially a big circle. And as you move a piece, it has to move. Typically, rondelles will allow you to move as far as you want in a clockwise fashion. And then when you stop, that's what you get, but you skip over the stuff in between. Very similar. That's basically all this game is. You will, depending on the player count, set up the board differently. So if you picture it like a pie chart, there's different slices, depending on the player count, but essentially you have what looks like a pie chart of graphics, right? And you're going to be putting these character discs on different spaces depending on the setup. And on your turn, you're going to do 3 different things. The first thing is optional, and it's called making a donation or something. And the second one is movement, and the third one is activate your character. So we're going to skip the first thing. And so when you move, you're going to choose your discs. So say I choose like this Duke in this space, and there's 3 characters in total. So the Duke and 2 more. It doesn't matter who the other players are there. And you get to move that many spaces. So 3. So I would move that character 3 spaces clockwise and then activate his special power. The special powers, there's only 5 of them. Everybody gets 5 characters. They get the exact same ones. There's basically the Duke. And if you have clear control of a space, meaning that you have the most of your characters there in comparison to all the other players in that space. So if blue and yellow have 1 and 2, that's 3 characters. I'd have to have 4 blue guys in one space to control that space. So typically that would be hard to do. You want to go after spaces that don't have player characters there or opponents or anything like that, or maybe 1 or 2. Anyway, if you do have clear control, you get to put a support token and you put it off to the side. Everybody can have a support token on every slice of this rondelle. And that's the actual goal of the game, is to get a support token on every slice, and you win. The other characters will help you do that. So if you move the merchant, you will get gold for every character in the space it ends up. The thief will steal 2 coins for every opponent in the space it ends up. The knight will imprison a character, which means it gets taken off the board. And the scholar will carry out whatever the printed ability of that space is that he ends up in. Now, the first thing I said that you could do on your turn that's kind of optional, it's actually called a bribe. And you have a few things you can do with this. And this is where you're going to spend the money. You can spend a dependable amount, which is a coin. It'll let you move 1 space shorter than what you tried. So if you move 4, you can actually move 3. You can do private roads in which you will move counterclockwise instead. You can immediately use one of your character's abilities. You can, during your turn, the Duke doesn't have to have majority. That's actually 4 coins. It's harder to pull off. And then you can post bail, which will allow you to get your imprisoned characters back. And it gets cheaper the more people you have imprisoned, and eventually free, because if you don't have any money and you got all your guys in prison, you're not technically eliminated. You can just put 1 back on the board. So that's pretty much the game. It's actually very simple, very straightforward. It's just a rondelle with some special abilities. And for the most part, I really enjoyed this game. I think that it probably works best as a 2-player game because it is a very tug of war at that point, I guess. Like if I move this, he can move this type of thing. When you add 3 and 4 players, even though the game is not that much longer, honestly, it does make it to where like you can't really plan things out until it's your turn because you don't know what the other players are doing. And I want to do this, and then 2 people go before you, and now it's like all your plans are all messed up. So you kind of have to see what the best option is at the start of your turn. And that's an inherent problem in a lot of games. I'm not saying it's a bad problem. It's just one that exists in board games. So it's not that bad. If it was more than 4 players, it probably would get really, really terrible, honestly. But as it is, I think it's a good game. I wouldn't say it's amazing. It's not one I'm going to come back to time after time after time. But I had fun playing it at, the times I have. And I think that it probably works best as 2. The character abilities are neat. I like the bribes. Gives you a way to spend gold. You can't hold on to gold very long because somebody's going to try to steal it from you. As a matter of fact, there's actually a limit on the gold itself in the game. So if, there's no gold available, it's really the only way you can get gold is to steal it from other players. So it's a very dirty game because imprisoning somebody's Duke means they can't even win the game. They have to go get money and then unimprison their character or bail it out. And I think that's actually really cool. It works out really well. And it's a good way to like stifle the main player, you know what I mean? Or whoever's like doing really well. It kind of provides a catch-up mechanic. But if you're playing 3 and 4 players, they fight over, you do it. No, you do it, because you're spending your turn to imprison that character. And I don't know, it's got some neat mechanism, not really mechanisms, but it's got some neat flow of gameplay going on with it. Just being a distilled game of strictly rondel. And so I think it's nice. I don't know if I would go track this one down. But if you can find it for, $10-15, it's definitely worth owning. I think the component quality is a little bit low for me. I think the pieces feel like, I don't know, like really meh cardboard, even though it's linen printed. It just feels weird. The box feels weird. The coloring on the box is very not black, if that makes sense. Like the blacks are like a very dark gray. So you can tell like the printing wasn't the greatest. It's supposed to be like black. So all the colors are kind of like not really washed out, but it seems to be like that. Maybe that's just a print run thing. And maybe if I had other copies to compare it to, it would be better. Just looking online, it kind of looks very similar to other players' copies. So I don't think it's anything that's specific to mine. But either way, it is nice. It can run a little bit long if players are really focusing on or not jumping on the opportunity to put their support tokens out. You can go a long time for people to just get money and imprison each other and stuff. And you're like, hey, there's one way to win the game, and that is to put support tokens out. So either way, though, it says 45 minutes. I think it's more like an hour and a half if you get 3 and 4 players. Maybe 45 minutes with 2 people. Actually, it could be a lot shorter than that with 2 players, ironically. So check it out. That is for Crown and Kingdom. And last up, I'm talking about Enigma. This is published in 2012 by, I guess, oh man, I had it up here. It starts with a Z. Its designer is Tuco Taco Kalayo. I apologize. I am not good at pronouncing these names. The artist is Victor Bowden and Paul Lien. And the publisher is Zoc Verlag, which I think maybe Z-Man also is listed as a publisher, at least on the copy I've got. But I know that the Zoc Verlag is there. Anyway, Enigma is a game where players are trying to score 15 points, or whenever 15 points are scored, the game will end. And then whoever has the most points is the winner. And the way that you do that, there are these 4 different puzzle types. Each one has a stack of tiles that sit off to the side. In each round, starting with the first player, and that first player will change each round, that first player will choose one of the puzzles to tackle that round. In each puzzle can only be selected once per round. So if somebody choose puzzle A, then nobody else can pick A. So if you're playing a 4-player game, then all 4 puzzle types will be selected every round. Now, the reason you want to select a different puzzle is because on the back sides, they actually have these conduits, and these conduits are like blue, red, and green. And you're trying to get ones that, match the same colors that you're going after in the middle of the table. If you picture the game like Carcassonne, you're getting these tiles, fulfilling these puzzles, and then putting them out in the middle together, attached to another tile. And whenever a conduit path is completed, so say in Carcassonne, whenever a road is completed, that will score. Everybody will get their meeples back, and then you get points for every, if you had a meeple on the blue color, for every blue conduit in that chain, you'll actually get those points. So that's why you want to select different puzzles or whatever. The 4 different puzzles, there's actually one that's like a pipe dream puzzle where you get all these pipe pieces and you have to kind of, some of them will be eliminated for each of that puzzle. So like you can't use the T section or whatever. And you're trying to complete that pipe dream essentially on a grid to connect all the pipes together. The second one is a perspective puzzle. You've got all these Tetris shapes. There's 4 of them actually. They're really weird shapes, and you have to fit them together to match what the card has. And the card only has a top-down aerial view, so only the top part. So you can see how that might be rough. The third one has all these purple shapes, and when you flip the card over, you have to cover up all the shaded sections on this puzzle tile. So, it might be a square, but you don't have a square piece. You have all these triangles and weird shapes. So you have to make a square out of that, basically. And the last puzzle is a scale puzzle. It has a scale and you have so many weights. I think typically between 3 and 6. 6 is the max at least. And the scale has different numbers on the left and right. And you have to place the weights on the numbers to make both sides equal weight. So if you have 6 scale or weights, you might have to put 4 on one side and 2 on the other side. But obviously the numbers on the right have to be higher because they have to equal up the same amount of weight on both ends. Either way, what happens is everybody drafts a puzzle. Everybody says 3, 2, 1, go. You flip over. You try to do your puzzle. The first player to finish their puzzle actually flips the 45-second sand timer in the middle. And that's how long everybody else has to go. And then at the end of that, you say stop. Or if everybody finishes their puzzle before the timer, you say stop. Anybody who has not finished their puzzle loses that tile. Anybody who did finish the puzzle in turn order gets to place it out in the middle inside to this like conduit system and try to score points. And again, whoever scores 15 points will trigger the end of the game, but whoever has the most points is the winner. As a matter of fact, I think it triggers it right then. So the only way you would lose is if you finish off a conduit system that has another player that's real close to your score, but gets more points from that, which wouldn't be something you would do. Either way, this game is actually pretty fun. I enjoyed it a lot. It's one that I searched out for a long time. I had in my cart many, many times years ago, and I took it out and bought something else. And I really wish I would have bought this, but I ended up math trading for it. Unfortunately, it's missing some pieces. It's actually missing some of the tiles of one of the puzzles, but it's not that big of a deal because there's 27 tiles of each puzzle. And I think I have like 20 of them. So I'm missing like 7. It's quite a bit. I actually should have checked this when I math traded for it, but all it is different variations of the puzzle. And you would have to play it many, many times for it to actually matter. So even though it kind of sucks, it's not that big of a deal. I still got to play the whole game, obviously. And there's a couple of things about this game. One, I wish that some of the puzzles were a little bit easier or more balanced in comparison to the other puzzles. Like, for instance, the perspective puzzle. And obviously this could change based on every single person because your puzzle solving skills might be completely different than somebody else's. But I feel like the perspective puzzle is really difficult. Past that, I would say that the scale one can be very difficult or very easy, depending on how much you like math. And the other 2 puzzles are pretty simple, right? The pipe dream thing is a little bit harder than the puzzle where you have to fill in all the shaded areas. I think that one might be the easiest, honestly. There's a couple of things in that one that are a little bit harder, but overall, I felt like that one was the easiest. So the puzzles I don't believe are super balanced in form in comparison to each other, but I like that the game gives you a little bit of incentive to go after a different puzzle because the backs of the tiles may not be any of the colors you need or go for, or maybe the way it's set up is like, man, that's just going to put 4 more connections on my conduit system I'm trying to complete, and I won't be able to complete it with that tile. So you're kind of forced to go after something different. Or if you're playing with multiple people, people are going to, the first player changes enough. So you're going to get, if you're choosing 3rd and 4th, you're going to have less of a chance of picking the same puzzle over and over and over. So I like that. It is kind of neat. I just wish the puzzles were a little bit more balanced as far as difficulty, but it kind of works out, honestly, with the way that the backs are with those conduits. And that's really nice. Overall, though, I really do like the game. I think that if you like the puzzle solving things, but need more of a competitive atmosphere, say like you like the Unlock series or Exit games and stuff, and you like these puzzles, this is basically a bunch of those, but you're actually competing against each other to get points. So it's really cool. It's a little bit of difference. I mean, you see a lot of these puzzles somewhat in some of the like escape room games and everything. And I think that's kind of cool that they're all kind of combined here as an actual competitive experience. As far as like that perspective puzzle, that 3D perspective puzzle, there's a game by, I believe, Pandasaurus Games called Mental Blocks, if you're interested in how hard that gets. But I think that's more of a you work as a team basically to everybody has one perspective of the layout, and you're trying to work with each other to build what the actual thing is. So a lot different than this. It's much harder doing it one with one person and only having the top down view of the thing you're trying to put together. But overall, yeah, I do enjoy it. I think it's a good game. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's really good. It was really fun to play. And yeah, I mean, the time can be a little bit longer if people aren't getting the stuff they need in order to complete conduits. We went one game where I basically scored no points that game because I messed up and had like this really elaborate conduit system. And if I completed it, I would have had like 18 points. So I didn't really do well. That was probably pretty sad. But every time I picked a thing, maybe I should have put it somewhere else, but I was just trying to complete it and people would add on to it and then it would just expand. And I'm like, come on, this is crazy. But overall, though, the game will end. It's not like it's a game that can perpetually just keep going. It is a little bit longer than what the box says. And depending on your team's ability to solve puzzles, it could be a little bit quicker because somebody could solve their puzzle real fast and flip it and cause that timer to start. And with that being said, it is kind of it's hard to play against somebody who's really good at solving these 4 types of puzzles because it basically just tells everybody else you only have like 45 seconds to a minute to finish your puzzle because this person's going to do theirs in 15 seconds. So it's definitely a game where you kind of need players of the same skill level because there's not much to handicap a really good player versus somebody who is just not good or fast at solving puzzles. Now, I suppose you could take the timer out or just expand the timer to like 2 or 3 minutes or something, or even just play with a 5-minute timer and not worry about flipping it when somebody finishes a puzzle first. That could be cool or work out, or I guess maybe if you play with the people enough, you can have a handicap system where your timer is this and everybody else is like 2 minutes. Yours is 45 seconds or something. But either way, I recommend it. I think it's much different than a lot of games because there's not a lot of competitive puzzle solving games. Typically, if it's a puzzle solving game, it's very escape roomish, and it's nice to play one where you can actually compete against everybody else at the table. So that is a really good, it's a pretty solid thumbs up for me. I wouldn't say it's seriously amazing, but if you do come across it, absolutely play it or buy it. So that is Enigma. All right, like I said, I'm going to have to wrap this episode pretty fast. We are leaving in the morning to go to Florida. So I just wanted to throw something out there, get you guys some content every week. Again, I will not post an episode next week, but we will be back the following week. And I will try to post it maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, trying to get more consistent with a day. If you have a specific day you like better, feel free to email us at MeepleCore@gmail.com because I know a lot of podcasts post on Wednesday and I don't really want to throw out there against a plethora of other podcasts, but it's really hard to get it out on Monday, which is what I would really prefer. So I'm looking at Tuesday as the post date. So just let me know what you think. And I'll consider it for sure. So anyway, I want to thank you again for tuning in to episode 140 of the MeepleCore Podcast. This episode was recorded on September 10th, 2021. Please send questions and comments at meeplecore@gmail.com and follow MeepleCore on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and video versions of the show on MeepleCore, youtube.com/MeepleCore. Until next time, this is Tim Jennette, the Metal Meeple. Keep on rocking and rolling dice.